I'm Dr. Lori Bettison Varga. I am the president and director of the Natural History Museums of Los Angeles County. The Natural History Museum right here. Thank you. It also includes the La Brea Tar Pits, arguably the most important paleontological site in the world. Thank you. And the William S. Hart Museum in Newhall. And I want to welcome all of you here to NHM inside the Otis Booth Pavilion. The Getty is a valued partner for all of us, and we're honored to host today's exciting event. As museums of, for, and with Los Angeles, and as part of the county family, the Natural History Museums recognize the recently adopted land acknowledgement, affirming that we occupy land originally and still inhabited by and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We commit to elevate their stories, cultures, and communities, and to honor, respect their elders and descendants as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We are grateful for the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands and are dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples. So we at NHM think this is a natural and obvious choice to kick off and celebrate the interplay between art and science. We're very excited to be hosting the gathering. Since 2011, Pacific Standard Time has brought Southland institutions together to create a new and inspiring cultural phenomenon. This iteration, Art and Science Collide, is a great opportunity for museums of all kinds, shapes, and sizes to center science and explore the many ways that science shows up and activates art, artists, and all types of cultural expression. Now, you may know that the Natural History Museum was the first publicly dedicated museum in Los Angeles, founded 110 years ago as the Los Angeles Museum of History, Science, and Art. And it was the only institutional art game in town. In 1961, the art division of the museum became an independent county institution, what we all know today and love as LACMA. Now, NHM's 3 museums collectively protect and share more than 35 million specimen artifacts, the largest natural and cultural history collection in the Western United States, and one of the largest in the world. But we also explore the nature and culture that surrounds us today, both in Southern California and the world. We are proud to be presenting 2 exhibitions in this next Pacific Standard Time, one here at NHM and one at La Brea Tar Pits, and both with the scientific through line for understanding the past and considering future ecological and climate change. On the first and second floors of NHM, our historic diorama halls showcase over 75 incredibly detailed habitats, from Arctic tundra to tropical rainforest. To celebrate the 100th anniversary of the dioramas, NHM will restore and reopen a diorama hall that has been closed for decades. There, visitors will experience immersive new installations that call attention to dioramas as a unique combination of art and science that explore biodiversity, ecology, conservation, colonialism, and changing museum display techniques. The exhibition, Habitats, Rethinking a Century of Dioramas, explores our wildly popular large-scale dioramas and how they not only serve as important archives for researchers, but are an invaluable educational resource, allowing visitors to see various natural habitats from all over the world and impart an understanding of and appreciation for the environment and need to protect these ecological communities for future generations. Artist Mark Dion, whose compelling taxonomic installations are known for challenging the way we construct and preserve knowledge, especially about the natural world, will present a special work at La Brea Tar Pits. Excavations will be an imaginative presentation of an entire Ice Age ecosystem on the site itself, relating to the museum and Los Angeles' scientific and cultural history, which will excite visitors' imaginations and connect with the ongoing scientific research. I invite all of you to come back in September 2024 to see these fascinating exhibitions and experience the ways art and science can converge. But before then, I hope you'll also join us in July 2024 when we open our new wing, NHM Commons, a transformative expansion and dynamic community hub with a multitude of new and refreshed spaces that will burst with vital, enriching, and accessible experiences, celebrating the intersection of science, nature, culture, heritage, and community. Thank you for coming today. I hope you'll take some time to explore the museum while you're here. And it is now my pleasure to turn the podium over to our Master of Ceremonies, Director, Actor, Educator, Futurist, Ahmed Best. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to get all of the logistics out of the way. My name is Ahmed Best. I am an actor. I'm a writer. I am a Leo. Thank you, as you can tell. I'm a senior fellow at the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism over here at USC. I am also the co-founder of the Afro Rhythms Futures Group, where we are a media design and consultation diversity firm, where we talk about the future forecasting, future insight, and diversity, inclusion, and education through Afrofuturism. I am a professor at the USC School of Dramatic Arts, as well as a professor at the Hassel-Plattner D School at Stanford. And I think that's it, right? I have to ask my wife because she's the smartest person in our family. So all of that to say, there's a reason why I am here. I started my career as an actor. I was in a Broadway show called Stomp, where we banged on garbage and they paid us a lot of money, and now my knees hurt. And then I moved from Stomp and I was cast in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. I played Jar Jar Binks, the first motion capture CGI actor in film history. And, thank you. This is a rare room where Jar Jar gets claps. Very much appreciate that. Very, very much. But working with George Lucas and being animation, that's where my love for arts and science came together. Every move I made, every performance I did, every expression I made was then translated into code. And that code became the foundation of every CGI character since. And I was really taken aback by how we all could collaborate together and make these things. I believe that art is the conscience of society. If we want to see what we are, who we are as a society, we must look at our art. And we must look towards our artists to be the mirror for that society. Science is the method in which we can make that art real, right? We can use the method, the scientific method, to move us forward. When they come together, they allow all of us to dream. And if we do not have our dreams, we do not have ourselves. And I am incredibly passionate about bringing the arts and science together, specifically for things like this, so we can all continue and learn and grow and dream. That is the most important thing that we can do for one another in a room, I believe. My good friend Cannupa this morning taught me something. And I love learning, especially learning from new people and new friends. And I think I'm going to carry this throughout all of the things that I'm going to be doing with PST, because I told you guys you're not getting rid of me. I'm here. That's it. That's whatever. Call another MC. We fighting. I'm a black belt. I'll take them. Okay? But what I learned from my good friend Cannupa now is, and what I'm going to carry in these rooms, is to be a totem for arts and science. And I am going to really, really provide that totem to whomever needs it. So I will be a totem in the room. And I invite you all to be a totem in the room for bringing these arts and scientists together, and these artists and scientists, and great people. And so with that, I would love to bring a great person to the podium who I just met this morning. Katherine Fleming, President and CEO of the J. Paul Getty Trust. Katherine, the podium is yours.
And the award for Best MC of a PST launch goes to my old friend whom I've known for 20 minutes, Mr. Professor Ahmed Best. So seriously, thank you very, very much. We're super lucky to have you part of this event. I can't imagine someone whose work better embodies, if not the collision, at least the convergence of art and science. We're all waiting to see what the collision looks like. We're hoping it's a peaceful and productive one and not a scary one. On behalf of Getty, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Lori, thank you so much and your team for the extraordinary work you've done to make it possible for us to have this event here. We're really thrilled. It's fantastic to have colleagues from almost all of our more than 50 partner institutions with us today. Thanks for coming on what has been spun as a happily gloomy morning. We can discuss. I'm not a Leo, so I have a different take on that, but we're delighted that the weather did not prevent all of you from coming and joining us. It's literally a standing room only crowd. Now, when PST first came into existence, I have to say, because it's written on the remarks that somebody thrust into my hand, but also because it's true, that it was a really radical and daring idea. I mean, what a wild concept to bring together, you know, anyone who's tried to partner with one institution, two institutions, three institutions, knows that it is virtually impossible. You founder on the rocks of the first meeting, and then you all sort of retreat and decide that you're going to pretend that you're collaborating, and that it's really easier to just do your own thing. And what a completely wild and remarkable thing that this has happened successfully, not once, but 2 times, really creating something that is Southern California-wide, that is not associated with any one institution, but that is part of all of us collectively. I want to thank all of the members of the press who are in attendance. This event is perhaps most of all for you, not simply because we're brown-nosers, but because you're the people who are tremendously instrumental in making the people of Southern California aware of this event and aware of it as something that exists fundamentally for them. So thank you very much for that and for getting the word out. At Getty, I have to say we're incredibly proud. Sorry about exploding, speaking of colliding with the mic. At Getty, we're incredibly proud to have made commitments of $17 million in grants so far in support of this PST collaboration. And thank you. That was a very good job of reading the moment. In all seriousness, it's a remarkable thing to work for an institution that is able to help other fabulous institutions do the wonderful work that they do. Getty has a particular responsibility to do that, and it's one that my colleagues and I take really, really seriously. Now, this new initiative is taking the collaborations into new territory. We're trying to take a really, really, truly global perspective in this PST, while at the same time remaining rooted in Southern California. We're also expanding the partnership to include an unprecedented number of science institutions. And Getty is marking this expansion by renaming Pacific Standard Time, which if you Google it, really maddeningly appears to be a time zone. The gall of it. So we are rebranding as PST ART to make sure that people who are trying to find out what time it is in San Diego don't get confused. And in order to express the dynamism of this really mind-expanding initiative, the next edition of PST ART is going to be called Art and Science Collide. And we're now going to play for you a short little video that's going to give you just a little taste, I hope, of what's to come.
I'm Refik Anadol.
Catherine Elizabeth Fleming.
My name is Sarah Rosalina.
Dr. Ed Krupp.
Annie Philbin.
Daniela Lieja Quintanar.
I'm Michael Govan.
PST ART.
PST ART.
818
artists throughout Southern California.
Los Angeles right now is the most creative city on earth at any time in history.
The collision.
Boom.
Of art and science.
is completely unknown. It's completely surprising.
Art humanizes science.
When art and science collide, you're confronted with two compelling ways of imagining worlds.
Like a dance between art and science. It's a way to look at art through a completely different lens.
Working together, they could really propose a more transformative society.
I think the boundaries between reality and unreal, physical and virtual, is completely blurring.
Wow, you're going deep, man.
You'll see a garden spilling out of the galleries.
How cosmologies are looking at our universe.
Making art in space could also be a way to look back at us and history.
Art
And science.
The skies.
And the cosmos.
Outer space.
Visions of the future.
El futuro.
Artificial intelligence.
The natural world.
And honeybees. I'm totally obsessed.
I want to talk more about the honeybees, but so as you can see, I hope there are some really, really exciting things to come. I arrived at the Getty a full gestation ago. It's 9 months and about 10 days, so I have some news to share. And I started speaking with people around the region, and everybody spoke to me about PST. Everybody talked to me about this initiative, how exciting it was, how meaningful it was for them to participate. And I thought, this is great, but this is the hometown crowd. And then in the third month of my presidency, at the end of the first trimester, I went on an extended trip to Europe and was completely staggered by the fact that the people with whom I spoke there had all heard of PST and were incredibly excited about it. And that made a huge impression on me, as it did on my colleagues. And I have to tell you that these really monumental Pacific Standard Time collaborations are clearly too groundbreaking and too consequential to be presented only as special initiatives that happen occasionally. So I'm really, really pleased to announce today that Getty is making a new commitment to making Pacific Standard Time a regularly scheduled initiative of Getty that's going to be permanently funded within our budget and presented regularly on a 5-year cycle. So we're all going to be able to look forward to having this event at regular intervals, And collectively, we're going to make sure that we keep Southern California at the absolute forefront of global culture and art and continue to solidify our place as, I'm going to be slightly more modest, one of the most significant global art capitals in the world. And now to share more with us about this newest edition of Art and Science Collide, it's my genuine pleasure to introduce one of the original founders of Pacific Standard Time, a fabulous colleague of mine, Joan Weinstein, who's the director of the Getty Foundation. Joan.
Thank you, Catherine. It is so exciting to be here and to see so many friends in this audience. It's really overwhelming. I'm so excited that the Getty has decided we should do this every 5 years, but I'm trying to figure out when it is we're going to sleep. I want to give a little bit of background on Pacific Standard Time, particularly for those of you in the audience who may not know its origins. It actually began with the idea of rescuing the archives of artists, gallerists, and dealers from the period of 1945 to 1980 in Los Angeles that were in danger of being lost forever. And somehow it strangely morphed into more than 60 exhibitions and publications that I think forever rewrote the history of modern art with Southern California at its core. And you are the ones that accomplished that through this collaborative spirit that Katie mentioned. And I think one of the secret ingredients to collaboration is that we encourage all of you to do the projects you want to do. And it's the wisdom of this community and the topics that they come up with that make PST so groundbreaking. I want to acknowledge Andrew Perchuk, who was my co-creator in the first Pacific Standard Time and co-conspirator for many, many years. In 2017, PST put a spotlight on Latin American and Latinx art, inverting the map of the Americas and rewriting the history of art from the perspective of the global South. That was a major accomplishment that all of you did. And here we are about to launch Art and Science Collide. I think it's a topic tailor-made for Southern California, whose destiny in the early 20th century was so intimately intertwined with science and technology. It's the place where scientists came to gaze skyward. Just think of the observatory at Mount Wilson, where in 1929, Edwin Hubble demonstrated that the universe is constantly expanding. They're excited too. It's also the place where aviation and aeronautics anchored our economy, where JPL developed the first spacecraft to encounter another planet. And today, for better or worse, SpaceX dreams of colonizing Mars. What is extraordinary in this PST is how prescient so many of you were in the topics that you're tackling, because they're some of the most important issues of the 21st century. Climate regeneration, environmental justice, regimes of surveillance, artificial intelligence, indigenous knowledge. You've taken this on, and it's so ambitious and wide-ranging. And there's some who said, well, how do we make sense of all of this, of all these exhibitions? Well, in your genius and the projects you've created, there are wonderful pathways through Pacific Standard Time. Some of you are revisiting the past for what it can tell us about the present at San Diego Museum of Art, looking at, it's going to be a resplendent exhibition called Wonders of Creation, looking at the intersection of art and science in the Islamic world from the 7th century to today. Or LACMA, exploring ancient cosmologies across cultures and human beings' continuous desire to explain the origins of the universe and its meaning. And places like JPL, the Academy Museum, the Autry and others are looking to the future, including Afrofuturism and indigenous futurisms. All of you are doing critical work in your shows based on 2 years of research, and your shows are imaginative and engaging and sometimes even joyous and fun. California African American Museum is reaching back to the legacy of George Washington Carver, who was the earliest proponent of sustainable agriculture and a practicing artist who invented his own pigments and is now inspiring new generations of Black artists in Southern California. Craft Contemporary is asking us to imagine what it would be like if we could design and make buildings using fewer materials and less energy, constructing and even growing buildings from materials like algae or silkworms or microorganisms. Red Cat is asking what the future of artificial intelligence might be if it weren't in the hands of trillion-dollar corporations, but were instead being designed by BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and other marginalized communities. Just imagine that. I think you saw in the video more than 800 artists are going to be represented in PST, and we're going to have a test at the end and see who can name all 800 of them. We're also going to have a competition. I already have one with Ted LaRue. We're going to visit from the public library. We're going to visit every single exhibition, and I challenge you to join our club, and we're going to have a membership group, and we're going to check up on admission and see if you made it to all of them. I think together these exhibitions have the potential to fundamentally redefine the relationship between art and science for the 21st century. That's a big statement, but I think it's true. Working together, art and science can help us reframe existing narratives so that we might discover new approaches and methods to the problems that we face. That we can offer real-world solutions to some of our most intractable problems, which some of our PST shows are literally doing, like self-help graphics. And as Ahmed said, propose speculative possibilities so that we can imagine and build better futures, so we can dream of those better futures and make them a reality. I want to thank all of you in generating what will be a mind-expanding experience for everyone in 2024. You are incredible, you're amazing, and it's been the privilege of a lifetime to be able to work with you since, I don't want to mention what the year was when we started planning the first PST. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ahmed, and you're going to have the real delight in hearing from some of our partners and some of the artists and scientists who are engaged in, I've got to get it right, I have to start practicing PST art.
Thank you so much, Joan. It's so great to know that this is going to be funded continually and that I'm going to have a job at least for the next 5 years. We can start planning vacation. Thank you all so much, and everybody congratulate me on my recent employment. Thank you. Really appreciate that. At my group, the Afro-Rhythm Futures Group, we like to say we have a reverence for the past, an awareness for the present, and creativity for the future. And the people who are building that creativity for the future, some of those people are in this room right now. And so I would love to give you all just a little taste of some of the exhibitions, just a little taste, the exhibitions that are going to be going on at PST ART. So I would love to invite all of you in the front row who are going to be giving us our PST taste. It's like an amuse-bouche of PST this morning. Please come up And take your seats, and we're going to have a completely unrehearsed conversation.
Huh?
Nice.
Unrehearsed.
Completely unrehearsed, no written statements. There's one person who needs to stand, though, and that's going to be our first presenter, and that is going to be Jacqueline Stewart.
Oh, I need to stand.
Jacqueline Stewart is the director and president of the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. The Academy Museum is presenting 2 shows as a part of PST, Cyberpunk, Envisioning Possible Futures, and Color in Motion. So I'm going to be a color in motion and move out of the way.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Ahmed. Good morning, good morning. I'm mic'd. Do I need this mic? Can you hear me? Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ahmed. The energy is just so appreciated. We at the Academy Museum are thrilled to have 2 exhibitions as a part of Art and Science Collide. We actually feel as though this theme is perfectly tailored to us as a film museum. It's the ultimate marriage of art and science. What describes a marriage better than the word collide? I don't know. So filmmakers are the inheritors of the full spectrum and the full history of visual storytelling. Filmmakers build on the traditions that others have paved in other disciplines and invent in worlds of their own by working with the tools and methods made available to them by ongoing technological breakthroughs. It was a technological innovation, of course, the invention of the thin strip of flexible material. I feel like I'm doing like a dual mic situation this morning. It's all good. Technological innovation that made possible the first projection of images that made the illusion of motion possible. And since then, science and motion pictures have been colliding with the work of artists to evolve all the way up through our current digital era. And so have the artistic visions of filmmakers. So art and science collide. The Academy Museum's projects are developing 2 exhibitions, one that looks at the materiality of the film image and one that explores something of what artists do with those technologies. The first is entitled Color in Motion, Chromatic Explorations of Cinema. And this is an exhibition that dives deeply into the science and the technologies of using color in filmmaking, going all the way back to examples of hand coloring at the very beginning of the medium. So I hope you're gonna see an image, or maybe it's alternating, of the silent film Serpentine Dance Annabelle from 1896, which is one of the earliest examples of hand coloring in film. We'll be telling the story of color in motion using film clips, of course, but also multi-screen installations, color charts, iconic costumes and props, posters, photographs, and an interactive color arcade where visitors can put color into motion by using the movements of their bodies. Our second exhibition, Cyberpunk, Envisioning Possible Futures, fits right into this theme of art and science because it examines the global impact and lasting influence of science fiction subgenre, cyberpunk, on cinema culture. Cyberpunk films juxtapose technological advances with social disorder, ecological crisis, and urban decay. And we'll be looking at landmark cyberpunk films like Blade Runner, Akira, and The Matrix, and present an immersive installation about the origins of cyberpunk, taking the story all the way up to the current day, where we'll talk about the way that cyberpunk intersects with theories and practices of Afrofuturism and indigenous futurism. So we can't wait to share these exhibitions with you in the fall of 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cyberpunk, you speaking to my heart right there. That's right where I live. Our next amuse is Cannupa Hanska Luger. He is a multidisciplinary artist. Cannupa is a Mandan, Hidatsa, Arikara, and Lakota heritage. River people, which is something I learned today as well. Cannupa's been teaching me so much today. I've just been sitting around listening to him. His work is being featured at both the Archery Museum of the American West exhibition, Indigenous Futures, or How to Survive and Thrive After the Apocalypse, and the Hammers Show Breathe Towards Climate and Social Justice. Cannupa.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
It's awkward. Podium. I think I'm just going to sit here. This works.
Yeah.
This works good.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You come to these places, and around the world, go to museums, games, and they start with these land acknowledgments, and they acknowledge whose true land it's been stolen from. I want to know, you sitting in these spaces, because I know it makes my gut. How does it make you feel?
Yeah. Well, it's a start. It's a good start. I recognize that it's a good start. Let me even do it properly for myself. Dosha maragua. Dishkag nahudosha nitawehudosha. Am Cannupa Hanska Luger. Am Awache, Dripping Earth Clan, Mandan Hidatsa Rikaran Lakota. The effort to make a land acknowledgement, oftentimes through institutional expression, leaves the land out of it. And that's what's heartbreaking about this. I think it's a great start to acknowledge the people that were here before this whole experiment took place. But the thing that's fascinating about it is it forces an indigenous population to be a long history of settlement and settling the land, which you can't settle the land if you understand that there are things living there prior to. We have deeper relationships to more than human kinships, so there has never been anywhere we've ever gone that isn't already inhabited, Yeah. So until we start to explore that, our land acknowledgements have to catch up.
That's like the idea of Oyasin, right? We're all of our relations. How do these ideas reflect in your work? Like, tell us about what you're doing and how we can augment and amplify what you're talking about, as well as the question with how you are involved in PST ART.
So I have multiple projects, but they are core from a series of ideas that I have been working on, but they're ideas that have been moving through time and history since before we were human beings. It's called Future Ancestral Technology. Both of the projects at the Atri and at the Hammer are extensions of these concepts, but it's an understanding that we focus on technology as the mechanisms and not the ideas. And that technology is actually a series of ideas that have moved through material science. Aspects of it have been made important, specialized, and then moved forward through materials, through mechanisms, through amplification, through efficiency. But we've lost a lot of ideas that our indigenous history, our relating to this place, that we all belong to the land and that it doesn't belong to us. That we reinforce these ideas that you can own it, consume it, extract from it, turn it into new materials, new resources. But you've lost the capacity to recognize that you should look at the land with reverence rather than resource, that you're an extension of it. And so Future Ancestral Technology is a way to kind of like bridge and open and explore technologies that weren't allowed to move through material science, that weren't allowed to advance and make efficient concepts and ideas that were foundational to our indigenous histories across the board, like where we come from.
And so this Indigenous Futures, or How to Survive and Thrive After the Apocalypse, tell us what the apocalypse is from your point of view and how this work allows us to thrive and survive.
Yeah, well, it was called 1492. The movement, in the biblical sense, the most radical apocalypse that everybody has ever written or theorized about or feared is a part of my history. I'm like 3 generations into apocalypse. Look at what I found in my post-apocalyptic wardrobe, scavenging the leftovers of this violent history. It's nice. You can survive and thrive, even in the absence of all of that. One of the projects that I'm working on is called Watecha. Watecha is the plate you take home from a feed in Lakota stories. It's the leftovers. It's the important part of that social exchange, that you take some of what people created for you, cooked for you, and prepared for you, home with you, so that the community goes home with you. Watecha is the plate. And so I've been doing a whole series of works that are based on scavengers and celebrating scavengers, your coyotes, your buzzards, creatures like this that have figured out a way to turn death and the thing that we're afraid of into life.
I could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cannupa. Your work is fantastic. Brilliant images, great work. And thank you for your question. If art and science isn't a conversation, then we are not going to move forward. So the questions are just as important as the work, I believe. And speaking of apocalypse, you know, there's a very large tenet in Afrofuturism that the transatlantic slave triangle was alien abduction. So there are all of these ideas that we can express through our art that allow us to move forward into the future and create the future we want to be in. But with that, I would love to introduce art. I like it down here. This is nice. It's like I'm wearing this. I feel like I'm hierarchical. I can give these people a chance to shine. I would love to introduce artist and scientist Maru Garcia. Any chance I get to roll R's, I take it. Presenting her research and artwork at Self-Help Graphics in an exhibition called Sinks, Places We Call Home. Maru, you can either stand or sit.
I'll take it.
Yeah, stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be with all of you today. And I feel that it's very important that we started with what you were sharing about really caring for the land and our relationships. Because that's what we are doing right now with our project Prospering Backyards that is going to be presented in the PST in the Sinks Places We Call Home exhibition by Self-Help Graphics. And it's bringing community together, and it's working in a reality that a lot of people are facing right now in East and Southeast Los Angeles, where a lot of people are being exposed to lead contamination in the ground. So when we are talking about these communities, it's the communities that are living there, the human communities, the more than human communities that are exposed to this. So I also like a lot the PST name of Art and Science Collide, because I feel that that's something that happened to myself too. I come from the sciences. I studied chemistry and biotechnology, worked in the industry some years when I was in Mexico. And then I felt that there was some need to kind of integrate myself and to go further. And that's how I then entered the arts. I studied an MFA here at UCLA, and since that time, I started working in projects that could have art, science, and environment as the main tools to create change. And for Prospering Backyards, I really feel that that's what we are doing, and I say we because it's not just me, but it's a team. We are collaborating with Self-Help Graphics, as I mentioned. We're collaborating with the Natural History Museum here. I was actually saying previously with some people that I met that I feel that it's kind of my second home. I visit every week and collaborate with Aaron Celestian. And it's really amazing how people can bring their own knowledge, their own tools, their own experience to make change happen. So what we are right now doing is basically a community science research. We are coming together with scientists, artists, activists, gardeners, soil healers, people that care about the soil, because we know that soil is so important. So we are right now testing with 15 community members that live in this area a method for lead remediation, soil healing. And the idea is to invite some minerals to come with us and help us remediate the land. And these minerals, in this case, that Aaron, that is present here, has been researching, they are called zeolites, and they have the capacity to encapsulate lead inside of their structures. So of course, like the science is already fascinating, like knowing about these minerals that have those structures that are like a sponge that can trap the lead there. But it's also fascinating in the sense that we can all come as a community to serve each other and to come with a solution that can help more people. So for the exhibition, we are planning to share the results of our research. This is an ongoing project that we are very happy to be doing and having all this collaboration and participation from the community. But besides that, we're going to have at the exhibition some documentation of this process, the stories of these community scientists, these members of the community that are facing this situation. And also, we're going to have some mosaics made of pellets out of soil. So this is a method that we use for lead testing here at the museum. So we're going to create art with that. And besides that, there is also, of course, a lot of equipment and very advanced technology present here for making imagery. We will be able to see zeolites in the microscopic level and have it like just big so we can see it. And at the end, we also will have what I call remediating sculptures. And the idea is to invite community members, participants to come with us and work sculptures that will be made out of zeolites, the minerals that I was mentioning. So we can have these sculptures released in different areas where contamination is present. So these sculptures are meant to be disintegrating through time, and then they will be able to heal the ground as they are dissolving. So that's what we are having next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the sculptures, they can be any shape, right? So if I wanted to make like an LL Cool J, Heal the Soil sculpture, I can make one look like LL Cool J, Kango, and everything.
Please.
Boom, done, done. I'm doing one, we're doing it together. Thank you so much, man. Physicist, Rana Adhikari, professor at Caltech. He is involved in the exhibition presented by Fulcrum Arts at Chapman University, Energy Fields, Vibrations of the Pacific. Rana, I'm a physicist in my own mind and dream, so I'm so excited about what you have to say right now. So please, Rana, thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed. In school, I always had trouble understanding Einstein's relativity. It's very complicated. But after a couple of decades, the way I think about it now, what he was trying to say is that space and time are a fluid. And the way we should imagine ourselves in the universe is that we're little fish in the ocean. And when space fluctuates, it's like water fluctuating. And there's a bunch of different ways that people can look at vibrations, and part of what we're doing with Fulcrum Arts is looking at this from a bunch of different ways. And usually we're used to doing that through water waves or sound waves. My special area is gravitational waves. And you just heard about Edwin Hubble noticing that the universe was expanding. That's a little bit like imagining you're on one of these dots behind me and the entire window is expanding and you see all the other dots moving away from you. And a wave of gravity is kind of like that. It's like the whole universe is warping all the time. When you're a little fish in the water, you don't have that kind of instrument. But what you can do is feel the ripples of the water as things move in and out. And sometimes really heavy things happen, like a snake or a crocodile comes into the pond, and you feel it. And you can tell that something's going on because you feel the fluctuation in the wave. But there's a bunch of other ways that information is recorded besides just feeling it. You have things like rings in tree trunks. If you've ever been out in your backyard, if you're old enough to remember when there were a lot of fireflies, you would see them lighting up the backyard, and when the wind would come by, you could see the dots moving around. And these are all kinds of different ways of knowing about vibrations that are going on. Fluctuations in the bioluminescence. If you go out to the ocean and paddle around, you can sometimes see glowing plankton in there. And it's a way for us to use light to tell about the underlying vibrations and the waves in the thing that you're in, whatever it may be. So one of the things I noticed while I was spending time in Australia last year is that there are records of astronomy going back tens of thousands of years. And so people have been looking at the night sky for a long time with very high precision. And there's even famous stories that are spread across many different cultures, North Australia and South India, things like the Seven Sisters or the Pleiades or Subaru, or depending whatever language you speak. But it's all the same thing. If you have a Subaru, you notice that There's 6 stars in the constellation, but the story is about the 7 sisters. And where is the 7th sister? Well, the 7th sister is hidden behind the 6th sister. That's the punchline. But the point is that the universe is not static. Things are moving around with time. And one of the things I wondered about was, what can we do with art that we can't do with science? What's a different way of knowing than what we normally do? And the human story has been going on for 100,000 years at least. And over that time, people have been looking at the night sky. And that's something that we might call art now, but back then they would have called science. And I was amazed when I went there at the precision at which people can figure out where stars are in the night sky by talking to indigenous people in Australia. And so I realized you can do an experiment that spans the entire history of the human race. Since we've been drawing things about the night sky for thousands of years, that means we ourselves, humanity, are like the tree rings in a tree. We have a record of what's been going on since the beginning, and that's in our artworks. And those artworks we can use to figure out how the night sky vibrated in response to cataclysmic things going on in the universe. I think it's a really deep thing that I learned, which probably everybody else here understood, but if you want to pass on a piece of information, and it's really, really important that nobody forgets, you'd better do something better than give someone a textbook. Yes. You got to make it into a song or a painting or a film, something that's got a hook, and then they'll get it, if it's really important. And I think that's what humanity's done. We've recorded our knowledge of the night sky through our drawings of the sky. And now that gift from ancient generations, we're here to get it and see what we can make out of it. And my hope is that we'll be able to find out new things about the universe, but even if not, just to be able to share new ways of thinking about the universe creatively, whatever field you're in. And I thought that was so far my greatest gift from this collaboration.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful, inspiring, uplifting, educational. I wish this was my undergraduate experience. You all are activating and motivating, and I'm so proud to share the stage with you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you so very, very much. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful work.
Thank you so much.
At this point, I'd love to invite you all to relax and no longer be ogled at. You can go back to doing your great work. Thank you all. Once again, a little amuse-bouche of PST. I would love to bring Katherine Fleming back to have some closing remarks. Well done. To close us out.
I just want to remark on how astonishing it is that someone can utter the phrase, "My special area is gravitational waves." I'm completely blown away by what you've just presented. We didn't pick just the best. This is characteristic of the work as a whole. Thank you all very, very much for joining us. We all will make ourselves available after this for any questions that the press might have. We can't wait to see you in 2024, and I'm just delighted to be here with you today, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Katherine. Thank you all very much for joining us at PST ART. This is just the beginning. Thank you all.